You got the recorder going?
You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Fumbling around with buttons everywhere we are. This is Force 13 Live, and we are live once again talking about everything that's going on in the tropics and the latest news at the current hour, 5 PM on the US East Coast, is that subtropical storm Leslie has regenerated, and that's no surprise to us at all. My name's Nathan Foy. I'm joined by David in this hour, who I think you inadvertently heard at the beginning of that countdown. Hello David, how are you?
Considering the air over here, I'm fine. And what does one say about Leslie?
And everything else. I'm trying to get something in particular working, but unfortunately it isn't working, so I don't know what we do about that. But never mind. This is going to be a real pig's ear of a live stream. Anyway, this is what Trami looks like in the latest frames. There it is, continuing through the Japanese islands very slowly.
And it's located 126 nautical miles south-southwest of Kadena Air Force Base, tracking north-northwest at 8 knots. However, Joint Typhoon Warning Center in their current advisory is saying that animated and enhanced infrared satellite imagery shows the system has become more expansive and has maintained a very large, wait for this one Nathan, 84 nautical mile ragged eye. And the environment remains very friendly. Low 5 to 10 knot vertical wind shear.
I tell you what, it's a battle of the wind fields, because Trami has around a 235 nautical mile wind field, but Leslie, that has just reformed and that we don't yet have imagery for here, has a 240 nautical mile wind field in the northwestern quadrant.
Well, these systems are clearly providing some, how can I put it?
There's Rosa.
Information.
Some of it.
That could be discussed. Anyway, sorry for that. I'm currently watching the International Space Station. And,
right, good news, it's working. We've just been working on that little... that new bar at the bottom that works all the time now. Now we've got it working. So the live stream is not as much as a farce as I thought it would be, although the other images aren't loading so well now. But you can see how Rosa's been looking recently, David. Not been looking that great.
Yes, I'll just quickly go across to Rosa and...
Well, let me just summarise everything that's going on first.
All right.
And feel free to screen share, by the way. This is tropical depression, it was 30W, still is a depression according to the JMA. I heard rumblings that it had been upgraded by the JTWC, but I don't know, it's not official anyway. That's 30W, moving very close to Guam. Tropical storm watch in effect. If it does have tropical storm force winds, then that'll be up to a warning. This is the Atlantic Ocean, showing what's left of Kirk. Still a tropical storm, 40 mph winds, heading off towards the west into the Caribbean graveyard. And up the top end of that image there, look how well Leslie is looking in those latest frames and its massive influence. And then you have this subtropical storm in the Mediterranean. This is the latest track forecast from Force 13, showing the forecast here, 9 AM on the 29th, that's UTC. Still a subtropical storm pushing to the northeast. We're now putting it at 50 miles per hour at a pressure of 992. And that could strengthen further. That's the track forecast for Kirk. Not much to say about that. There's Leslie and its huge ballooning wind field. Now this just makes a mockery of that forecast cone, I have to say. Because it's the wind field of that storm is bigger than the 5-day track error.
Yeah, I'm just having a look.
The centre of Leslie could track anywhere within that cone, and that means Bermuda can't be ruled out, David.
Yes, I was looking at the wind field, and Bermuda is definitely in the path of Leslie. Nathan, read Leslie. You don't think the environment would allow it to develop into a hurricane?
Well, let's read through the discussion together, shall we? The forecast track. Let's see, just trying to pick out what they're saying there. So yeah, they're expecting it to transition into a tropical storm and then get very close to hurricane status, and they're saying that forecast that they've put on there is possibly, actually they say probably, conservative at 70 miles per hour in those last two dots. And the tropical transition could occur earlier than what they're saying, 48 to 72 hours as well. So to answer your question in short, yes, it could become a hurricane.
And just reading the information, whilst the storm has also developed a warm core and shed some of its baroclinic characteristics, it's embedded in a large, deep layer, low-pressure system. It's designated subtropical instead of tropical, and intensity is set at 45 knots.
Pressure of 986, which is pretty low for a tropical storm, but not really at that latitude.
Leslie gradually develops the upper level outflow pattern of a tropical cyclone, transitions to a tropical storm. After that time, they're in good agreement that the cyclone will strengthen. Based on this, the intensity forecast shows only modest intensification during the first 48 hours, followed by strengthening to a conservative possibility 60 knots. And then they have it transitioning to a tropical storm between 48 and the 72-hour mark.
Yep. Let's move on. This is the forecast for Rosa. 120 miles an hour down to mid-range category 3 and no longer expected to get to Arizona as a tropical storm. And that cone just shifting ever so slightly to the south. I think that just about puts San Diego outside of the cone now. Could switch back, you never know, but the way it's looking, David, it's looking to me like it won't be a tropical storm by the time it reaches land, or it will lose its characteristics pretty much immediately after the landfall.
National Hurricane Centre saying that it has rapidly deteriorated since this morning. However, there is evidence of an ongoing eye wall replacement cycle in the apparent moat region. Has occasionally been apparent in conventional satellite data during the past several hours. The slow motion of the hurricane since last night could also be causing upwelling that would lead to further weakening. And she's still moving northwest. The model spread has increased a little with the GFS and its associated regional models showing a slightly right southeast track compared to earlier cycles, while the ECMWF has shifted an equal amount to the left-northwest. The consensus models have not changed much as a result of these offsetting model trends. Rosa is still expected to turn northward, then northeast, ahead of a mid to upper level trough approaching from the northwest, and the cyclone should then accelerate a little as it approaches the northern coast of the Baja California Peninsula early next week.
Let's see if we can get some latest There's Trami again, by the way. It's going to move, looks like it'll be just west. The western part of Okinawa could get the part of the eye, which is interesting to see. And that'll be in the next few hours, during the daylight hours over there in Japan. Now let's see if we can take a look at something totally different. This here is the so-called Medicane. Bit of a silly name really, because it doesn't have hurricane force winds and it's not tropical. It's a subtropical storm and it's looking pretty good as far as they go, David. We're estimating a pressure of 992, 50-mile-an-hour winds, possibly could get to 60, maybe even to 70.
Nathan, whilst this is in the European region and an area that I really don't follow, considering where I'm located.
Me neither, ironically.
True. Looking at this system, how far back can we go for a similar system?
About a year.
All right, 12 months. All right, we'll leave
or whatever it was. There's a question. Do you think Rosa peaked at 150 miles per hour? There's been so much going on we haven't been able to look back and check, I have to say. So I would say that could be a fair estimate.
Currently, the current central pressure is 942, winds 120 knots.
No, that's old information now. It's down to 120 miles an hour. And ATCF went with 955. That's what we put on our
955.
That is what they're saying.
Yep, 105, located 17.4 degrees north, 117.7 degrees west. And Leslie is 986, as Nathan mentioned, 45 knots. Trami, 953 millibars, 90 knots.
In a moment, I'm going to get us to have a proper look at Trami and how it's doing in its latest frames. But whilst I'm loading all of that imagery, I don't know if you'd like to pick up on anything else at this time. If you do have any questions for us, by the way, I'm sorry, I do this all the time. I interrupt people as soon as I give them a chance to talk.
That's all right.
If you've got any questions for us, though, it is important. Do send us a message. Start your message with Force 13, all in text. All right, now you can go ahead.
Thank you for the microphone. Anyway, Fiji Met Office down here in the southern hemisphere has finalised their position on the historic cyclone, which is well, at the end of the month. And the Australian Biometeorology has also finalised their position. Vanuatu,
so
they haven't updated. It's gone, but the satellite imagery is still there, and I'm just waiting for the Bureau to update some information, but she's definitely on the way. The environment is very hostile, and I was saying to Nathan earlier, viewers, wind shear over Western Australia to my west, it's about 120 knots, and it's down about 70 in my area, so there's no way. Yeah, 120 knots. And I don't think I've actually seen it that strong, Nathan, over the years that I've been following the weather scene. Now, we go to Tropical Storm 30W. National Weather Service in...
has been pegged as such by the JTWC. The JMA still not recognising it as such yet, but it could happen at any time that it makes that upgrade to tropical storm status. Their next update should be due... well, it's probably going to be after we go off the air tonight, so we won't know. But if it does develop into a tropical storm, we'll be out first with updates at 11 AM Japan time. We might have to do updates on both of those typhoons, both those systems at the same time. I think we've now got imagery of Trami, and whilst we look at that, David, I think you were going to continue.
I have on the screen, when you're ready to switch over, the current track from the National Weather Service over in Graham. As I just mentioned, they have a tropical storm
we got it
watch. They have a marine warning. Tropical Storm 30W, southeast of Graham. It's expected to move into the general direction of Graham. The current forecast track takes it a little southwest of Graham this afternoon or evening. They have a small craft advisory remaining in effect until Monday. And as mentioned, Tropical Storm Watch is also current. Winds are
they'll probably
increase.
I don't know if they've upgraded it to a warning locally, but their public tropical cyclone advisory doesn't say so. But I'd be baffled if it isn't a tropical storm warning by, well, the next update is going to be in another 3 hours. Might be too late by then.
Actually, Nathan, they updated about 17 minutes ago. So 7 o'clock local time. Yep.
No, the only update I saw was from 5:17 AM, which is a good... Well, what's that you're reading then?
It's urgent marine weather message.
All right. That's important then. Do you want to read that out?
Okay, winds are beginning to increase. Winds could reach gale force this afternoon tonight. Gale force winds are most likely the southern and western Graham waters. Winds are not expected to exceed 40 knots. Waves, the seas will rise Saturday, reaching 10 to 13 feet in Graham and Rosa waters. Yes, the seas could remain above 10 feet through Monday night. And Nathan, they have a tropical storm watch, meaning sustained winds of 35 to 63 knots possible due to the tropical storm within 24 hours. The small craft advisory means that wind speeds of 21 to 33 knots expected to produce wave conditions, hazards to small craft.
And that second system behind Trami is going pretty much to the same place as well.
And Nathan, the National Weather Service has also put out a special weather statement. Actually, that's 3 p.m. And at 3 p.m. Friday, actually, that one is out of date. And we have, yeah, they updated that one you referred to at 5:11 a.m. So tropical storm watch remains in effect.
As we continue to look at images of Typhoon Trami, which is really sweeping through those islands right now. It's pretty much halfway between Okinawa and Miyakojima, and the massive size of that eye, David.
84 nautical miles, and Nathan, I'm really hoping that I'll be able to capture the space station flying over it later today. 84 nautical mile ragged eye. The environment remains friendly, 5 to 10 vertical wind shear, excellent radial outflow. Sea surface temperatures remain favourable, 28-29 Celsius, and is tracking along the western edge of the subtropical ridge to the east. Trami will crest the Steering Ridge axis over the next few hours, begin to accelerate northeast, making landfall along the east coast, Shikoku, Japan, within 36 hours.
Yeah, that is sort of where it's headed for, and that is a magnet for typhoons this year.
Yes. So, Maine Coot, when we think about that track, well, we've got Trami heading the same. But I was saying to Nathan earlier, viewers, I've been looking at various live webcams on mainland Japan, and conditions. You really wouldn't know that it's a typhoon heading their way.
No, certainly not in Tokyo.
And then the typhoon is expected to be dragged across Honshu by the 72-hour mark and making it just to the south of the Kamchatka Peninsula.
Yeah.
And will be exposed to strong westerlies associated with a approaching mid-latitude trough. And again, they mention the favourable conditions will fuel slight intensification to 100 knots within 24 hours.
Yes,
so
potential for
that it's going to intensify again.
Potential for it to become a Category 3 once more. Yes.
What is it now? Cat 2.
Yeah. Let's just bring to you, because it's not on the usual channels, the latest graphic for the for 30W. It looks like this. There it is. Expected to become a Category 4 according to the JTWC, and the HWRF is pretty much in agreement with weakening as it approaches the Japanese islands, probably starting to, well, actually it will be entering that massive pothole, I suppose, of very cold sea surface temperatures caused by all of that upwelling, 4 days and more from Trami.
And 30W, I'm just looking at the JTWC.
Now, the threat to the Philippines, I would say, is low. The threat to Taiwan, fairly low. Be mindful of that. Japan, again, we're looking at the main threat there in the Ryukyu Islands. I'm fed up of saying all of those place names along that peninsula. Along that archipelago, actually. Crazy.
And Nathan, the Joint Typhoon Warning Center sea surface temperatures 30-31 degrees Celsius, tracking
at the minute
along the southwestern edge of the subtropical ridge, and it's expected to pass to the south of Guam by about 70 nautical miles, and they're saying
in the not too distant future, indeed.
Yeah, gradual intensification to 105 knots by 72-hour mark.
But you look long range on this system, according to some models, having it grazing the western coast of Kyushu and then going towards the Korean peninsula even.
By 96-hour mark, the tropical storm 30W will begin to round the western edge of the steering axis, turning slightly northward. Dynamic model guidance significantly spreads out, with ECMWF as the notable left outlier, and they have the CTCX on the right margin of the model envelope. In view of the large spread over 700 nautical miles at the 120-hour mark, the confidence in the extended portion of the centre's forecast remains low.
I want to go through the HWRF right now, just to show you everything that it's saying. This is for Leslie, a southwestward motion, and then a stalling motion as it goes further towards the south. It really takes a dive down there as well, and a lot of models agreeing with that. Which one? This one. And then when you get towards the 5-day period, none of the models know what to do with it, really. But the general consensus, I mean, I say they don't really know what to do with it. It ends up turning around, but when and where is the main question. The only land area that it could potentially affect would be Bermuda, considering its massive wind field, and it certainly wouldn't be a landfall. I would scarcely think that would be the case. And then it will slingshot back towards the northeast eventually.
The Bermuda weather forecast, a series of weak troughs will bring a few showers at times tomorrow afternoon through Sunday. The remnants of Leslie will bring large long period swell to the area this weekend and early next week.
Yeah. Okay. Let's take a look at Kirk. Not much to say about that anymore. It's not going to live a very long life now, and it will be relegated to history in the next few hours.
And the Bermuda Weather Service has it located 105.6 nautical miles south of Bermuda, west-northwest, or 300 degrees, 12 knots, central pressure 1007 millibars, 35 knots, gusting 45.
And here's Rosa. You know, this was from earlier today when it was a category 4. And it looks to have weakened more quickly than the HWRF thought it would. And on that premise, the HWRF only had a minimal tropical storm landfall, so you could say that maybe it won't even make it there as a tropical storm. It's very hit and miss on that. Want to move on. Invest 96E is now on the HWRF radar. There it is, another category 4. Yep, another one. I don't see why that can't happen. Invest 97C, the one that's in the Central Pacific, Look at that, another Category 4.
I think the Joint Typhoon Warning Center has the tropical cyclone formation alert on that one.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Now, hang on. Is that the one near Hawaii?
Yeah, the one I'm talking about now.
Okay, so I'm just trying to keep up with all the...
Well, I'm wanting to move pretty quickly through all this. So let's take a look at the HMON for Leslie first of all. This is another one of the models. Oh dear, oh dear. Look at the size of that wind field. Minimal hurricane by the looks of things in the 3 to 5 day period. Very similar to the HWRF really. Bermuda's at 65 degrees west, so no threat to Bermuda according to HWRF or HMON in the next 5 days. So there's Leslie. Kirk, just in case HMON has something silly for Kirk. Well, sort of. I don't see it going all the way down there, but you never know. Has it lasting a little bit longer? Another day having it last for. Huh. Rosa, which I'm sure a lot of people might want to know about, actually much weaker. Not even a tropical storm by the time it makes landfall, and that was assuming the Category 4 that it was 12 hours ago nearly now.
Now, Nathan, there any models indicating the system that's supposed to come on the radar behind Rosa?
Yeah, I mentioned that HWRF had a Category 4 and the HMON here showing a Category 2 out of it. Because Category 3s never happen in the Eastern Pacific. And this is Invest 97C calling for just about Category 3 there as well. So HWRF and HMON calling for a major, and goodness knows where it goes after that. Very uncertain future beyond that 5-day period, curved towards the north and northeast. But it doesn't look like it's going to go towards the main Hawaiian Islands, but it could affect some of those, they have a name for them, those islands that are as an extension of the main Hawaiian island chain off towards the northwest all the way up to the dateline. But that's another thing that we'll be looking at. That's going to keep everyone busy for another 2 weeks, no doubt.
And getting closer to the southern hemisphere, the cyclone season.
David rubs his hands with glee.
Well, it's very active, and I'm waiting to see what the Australian Meteorological Bureau says about the tropical cyclone outlook for the season along with Fiji. And that will come out late October, last week of October. But these systems keep on popping up here in the Westpac.
I'm sorry about that. We're now joined by Isaac. Good evening.
Hello.
Hi. Your thoughts?
Which storm are you tracking tonight? There's plenty to choose from.
Most of them, to be honest. I'm tracking Trami. I'm tracking Rosa, 97C, that Mediterranean thing, whatever that is.
Go on, tell
Leslie.
us, what is it? That Mediterranean thing, as you most wonderfully and coherently describe it, eloquently.
It's a Zorbis.
Yes.
Well,
Whatever,
I don't subscribe to the
names.
Fake naming systems there at the minute. There's no official ones at this time.
Right.
I mean, it looks decent, I guess. I mean,
certainly does.
Maybe
We're
I'll
calling
call
it a subtropical storm.
Yeah, I was about to say that too. I'll probably call it that, but I haven't seen the latest images really. But looking at one sentence chat, it probably is. And then I know Trami is starting to move again after it stalled for like the longest time and didn't want to move. and now it's moving on towards the.
Oh yeah, it's well on the
Japanese
move.
Yeah.
Are you surprised to see how much Rosa is capitulating right now?
I haven't seen Rosa. I just like came back from school, so I have no idea. I'm about to look at it right. Oh dear! Wow, that looks bad. What happened to it? It just let itself go.
Oh dear, it's looking worse by the minute.
What happened to it?
Did it, you know, it's not only weakening, but it looks like it's shrinking as well.
Did it like upwell water or something? Like
I'm pretty sure it did. Water temperatures at the time were about 27 degrees, Isaac, and it barely moved in that 24-hour period. And they're only getting colder, those sea surface temperatures, so I think it just shot itself in the head, if not the foot.
So first there was Trami, and now it's Rosa that decides to join the upwelling party. Oh dear.
Off it goes.
Oh yeah.
But then it also decided it wanted to do an eyewall replacement cycle at that time as well, and yeah, that's not going very well.
As I could see there, I think 30W is a tropical storm right now. I think also I'm not certain on that.
The JTWC have put it up to tropical storm status, waiting on the JMA's word on that. We won't hear from them for another half an hour or so. And that will probably be after we finish.
Looks like another threat to Japan, as if Japan hasn't had enough threats this year.
And we've just had a comment. The Pacific could be busier than last year's Atlantic. Which part of the Pacific?
Gotta be specific on that.
Be specific on that, please.
Yes.
They probably mean Eastern. I mean, we're already up to 20E, which I think beats the Atlantic.
Just roughly, how many systems have we seen in the Westpac?
A lot.
30, I think.
Well, that's from the JTWC. The amount of systems, I think it's something like 24 name storms.
And
as I've been saying in recent streams, David, it's the third highest for the current date.
And O2 PSC is going on also, but looks to be weakening now.
Cyclone Liua.
Yeah, I don't know how to say that name.
Down there in the South Pacific, that one also.
Lou.
And then 96E.
Some history too.
Yeah, 96E and 97C look pretty. I guess organized. You could say 97C looks pretty good. I don't know why the CP8C haven't designated as a tropical depression yet.
You know, I thought they would have done that yesterday.
It looked pretty decent yesterday. Decent enough to probably be named, not be named, but be a depression in my book. I guess they may be waiting to see how long it's gonna sustain itself or something. I don't know.
And Kirk dying.
Yeah, 1,007 millibars.
Let's not talk about that. Leslie, what do you think of its massive wind field? It's bigger than the National Hurricane Center's cone.
No, that's exactly why even when you're not in the cone, it doesn't mean that you're not going to see anything from a storm. There's a classic example right there. Even outside the cone, it looks like tropical storm force conditions are possible. Man, that's huge.
There it is. So, you know, considering how the center of the storm can pass anywhere within that cone, Bermuda could have tropical storm force winds.
Certainly possible.
That is clearly the biggest storm of the year so far.
How big is it?
When you put it that way, it's just ridiculous to put it that way, but it's got a bigger wind field than, I think I'm right in saying it's bigger than Florence.
I don't remember Florence having a wind field that big,
It's bigger than Florence. So you could legitimately say this is the biggest storm of the year, and it's not even tropical.
And how big is Trami compared to Leslie?
They're actually similarly sized.
Really?
And 84 nautical mile I.
Well, yeah. Leslie can't compete with that because it doesn't have an eye.
I think the NHC also say it'll be a high-end or near high-end tropical storm at the near peak, I think. For Leslie. And I would say it certainly is possible that it could become maybe a subtropical hurricane.
No, the NHC think it'll turn tropical first, and then it could become a hurricane.
Oh, I see it now. I don't know why I thought it would be. I don't know why I thought they said that it was going to be a subtropical, high-end subtropical storm.
Do you think it was a subtropical hurricane at any point during its life?
I haven't been, to be honest, I haven't been paying attention to it at all, really. So
now, here's an interesting one for you. I'm sure you'll have an opinion about this. Certain quarters of the Force 13 team think that maybe halfway through its life, Sandy became subtropical. You know, when it was going beyond the Bahamas towards the Gulf Stream, and it would have been a subtropical hurricane. What do you think?
I don't know about that one. I'm undecided on that one, to be honest. I wasn't really paying attention to the Sandy that much, to be honest. I only really paid attention when I was making landfall.
Well, I was. It cut short my vacation. Anyway, there are two other subtropical hurricanes that occurred in the Atlantic. 1979 and 1968, and two in the southern hemisphere as well. I forget the name of the one in 2003, but Joel in 2010 as well, both in the South Indian Ocean. There's probably more that we'll not know about. Whether Leslie was one remains to be seen. Only 50-mile-an-hour winds now. There's the forecast track for Rosa, and earlier on today we were saying that San Diego, California had an 11% chance of tropical storm force winds. That percentage now is down to 7. Other places,
looks like it will.
Tijuana 6%, Yuma, Arizona 9%. That's another place we'll be watching. Ensenada 14%, and Punta Eugenia 30%.
It looks like it does have. I just lost my train of thought here. It does have the potential for being a flooding threat for Arizona and Southern California.
They already issued a hydrologic outlook over there, calling for up to 4 inches of rain in some parts. Isaac.
Yeah, if that falls in a short period of time, that's pretty bad.
Yes. Now, they were talking about maybe 1 inch or 2 per hour at times as well. What would that do to a place like Arizona or southeastern California?
It would cause a lot of flooding, flash flooding, because remember, they're deserts. So whenever it rains, the water has to go down somewhere. So there's likely to be flash flooding around wherever those 1 to 2 inches of rain per hour decides to end up being.
Yes, most likely to be over Arizona and even into parts of Utah as well, quite possible. Let's take a look now again at the latest imagery of Typhoon Trami. We don't really have a main feature tonight because there are so many competing features, but I guess Trami is the most immediate one that we're looking at tonight. Our schedule is all over the place, by the way. Who knows what we're going to be doing and when. What I can guarantee you is that there will be an update on Trami to follow at 11 AM Japan Standard Time, and I'm assuming David's going to be doing an update on 30W at somewhere around then as well.
Yes, I've got Trami already on the table. So I've just got to fine tune, and it'll be out on time, 11 11 a.m. Then
Oh, I'll be doing that one, David. Don't worry about that.
Oh, you're going to do that one, all right.
Yes.
Well, I'll do Trami. Not
30W.
Trami, I'll do 30W.
Yes, sir. You see what I mean?
Sir.
Completely discombobulated and out of sorts. It has been a long season. And then we'll probably have more updates on Rosa tomorrow as well.
So Rosa is struggling, and I expected it, especially as it approaches the coastline.
And as soon as people start seeing that Rosa's looking terrible, they'll just say, "Oh well, that's that," and stop looking at any updates on the storm. Not advisable necessarily, because some systems can survive, but at the minute it's still a Category 3.
And also that one has possibly come on the radar behind it.
Yeah, they also got to pay attention to the flooding threat too.
Yeah, and I'm keeping an eye on the National Weather Service.
And just a reminder of the warnings that are in effect in Japan. There are typhoon warnings for all of the Ryukyu Islands. Appears at the bottom of your screen every so often. That information is up to date on our new style of rolling graphics, fancy imagery, whatever it is down there.
Imagery.
Whatever that is. We're still testing it at the minute, so there might be some hiccups along the way as we try to perfect that new system, and hopefully distribute the information as nicely as we can whilst we talk about it on the screen as well. And the gale advisory there for most of Taiwan, except a part of the southeast and the rest of Kyushu, almost all of Kyushu, under a gale advisory, and those warnings will no doubt be extended tomorrow, tonight, tomorrow.
And also on the radar for our viewers, we have down here in the South Indian Ocean.
Uh-oh.
I think it's what, 92S.
Yes. Now it's looking more uncertain as to whether that will get to named storm status. Well, especially considering how what's the word? About La Reunion. They never like to name that storm, do they? They had to have named 1S, but they didn't. They didn't name it. Name that storm. Yeah. They didn't do it. They should have done. No reason to name 92S yet, but who knows down the road. Maybe.
The Joint Typhoon Warning Centre has it at low for development.
Yeah, and that was a much higher chance earlier on. But there we go. We continue to look at the massive eye of Typhoon Trami. It could probably swallow up Okinawa whole. What is going on in that southeastern part of the eye, I'm not sure. But massive convection flaring up on the northwestern side.
Certainly a big storm there for Japan. I believe it's a Category 2 right now.
And slightly stronger than it was earlier.
Really?
It was 100 miles an hour before, and now it's 105 again.
Oh, wow.
And the JTWC think that I think that it will strengthen further to Category 3 status.
Certainly probably a storm surge threat too for the Japanese islands if it's this big.
Wave height, I think, is 48 feet.
Wow.
That's a lot of feet. And there's the percentage chances for southern Kyushu, Shikoku and southern Honshu. Over 90% in a lot of those places. And 75% chance of tropical storm conditions in Tokyo. So, David, we might be wheeling out those cameras after all.
Oh, I've got about 5 ready.
but it's certainly not expected to be the worst place on there. There's again the overview of everything that's going on right now. And I don't know where we go next, but if you've got any comments or questions for us, do send us a message. Let me go through all the warnings that are currently in effect for the so-called Medicane.
The Medicane.
I just don't like that terminology very much. It's not got hurricane force winds. It's not tropical. But it is a subtropical storm, and it would have the right to be named, but there's no official agencies over there that name that storm. So we've got a wind warning in effect for 2 Italian provinces, Calabria and Sicilia, the southernmost provinces of Italy. And tomorrow over there's a lot of wind advisories out for most of the country, as a matter of fact. I'm not sure that's related to the storm though. And then we go into Greece. A lot of warnings out there at the minute. Red warnings for thunderstorms in quite a few locations. The Ionian Islands, East Peloponnesos, and Crete, and West Peloponnesos. And also orange thunderstorm. Well, I'm not sure what the difference is between red and orange, but orange warning for thunderstorms locally for some other locations, West Styria, Attiki, and East Styria and Ivoria. And wind warnings for a lot of those locations in Greece, but curiously that doesn't include the southern and southeastern parts of Greece that are expected to get those storm force winds as well. Maybe it will just the islands will just completely destroy the storm, but I think it will survive into the Aegean Sea.
What would you say its intensity is right now for that?
We're giving it 50 miles per hour at the minute. It could be conservative though.
Seems fair.
Which is something we acknowledge. It could be conservative. It could be 60. I don't think we'd go higher than that. Given that the estimated pressure is 992.
Nathan, just on Trami, the JMA has it dropping to 935 millibars, then it jumps up to 965.
Very interesting turn of events. You know, there is that room for strengthening on the eastern part of the East China Sea along the border of those islands. Sea surface temperatures still around 29 degrees Celsius.
Yes. But what do you reckon Trami's trying to do on that eastern, north through south?
North east through south, through east through west.
No, I want to say north to east to south
to west.
No, the rest looks a lot more healthier. Is it trying to close? Tighten
I have
up?
some imagery right here of Trami right now.
Just a moment. I'm just looking at this with you, David, and there is a massive hole in the eastern side of the eye. It's certainly an open eye right now. It's not a closed eye. The eastern side's just coming completely away in those latest frames.
The last two?
Last two?
Frames?
Through this whole animation cycle.
You've got the rainbow run up, haven't you? Because I'm looking at the rainbow floater. And
No, show us what you're looking at.
Alright.
Well, actually, Isaac's also showing us an image right now.
Yeah,
is that pointing north?
What?
Is that pointing north?
Well, it's
Yes.
from the target area.
So you can see there that the southeastern side and the eastern side of the storm there, just how open that eye wall is. There's a massive gap there.
Yeah, it's really kind of discombobulated right there.
and then eastern side not looking too good. And this image was about 15 minutes old, 10 minutes old right now as we speak.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact time right now, but
David, could you show us what you're looking at?
All right.
Just so that we're not all... Okay. Tell us what you're seeing in these frames.
I'll just magnify it a little bit and zoom in on it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at that bit there. I think well, I'd be right to say it looks like it's trying to close.
Fractured at best. A fractured eye wall at best.
Yeah. But the north through west to south, when you look at the banding, about 84 nautical mile eye.
Wow.
But it could close, they say, further intensification.
Yeah, it could, not showing any signs of it right now though. It looks appalling.
No.
But you can't rule out that with those flare-ups on the northwestern side, that can easily start to encircle the storm again and give it another push. The next hours will be very telling, I think.
Nathan, what would the cloud tops be? I'm not seeing much white in the...
Well, some of those cloud tops to the northwest are going beyond minus 80 Celsius. Only fleeting, however. One of two things is going to happen here. That flare-up sustains and wraps all the way round to the western, then the southern side of the eye, and the gap will swivel round towards the north, then towards the northwest, and eventually get filled. Or the convection will peter out pretty soon, in the next hour or two or three, and the storm will weaken. Is there such a thing as having an eye too big to reconcile? We're about to find out.
Yeah, I cast my mind back to the questions I've asked previously. What's the biggest eye that we've seen?
A lot bigger than this by a factor of 3.
I believe Carmen had the biggest eye in 1960 recorded so far. And Nathan could correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Maybe, but we don't know the exact size of Carmen, and people's estimates differ on Winnie.
Yeah, Winnie was also another
estimates differ on Winnie because it generated that new inner eye wall, but there was a period before that happened where it just had that huge eye. And it was a very fascinating, almost an experiment. I don't want to call it that because it's the real world, but what we saw there was something we scarcely see. The eye, some people theorize that the eye was so large that it had to build a new eye wall further in. It couldn't sustain an eye as large as it was. Either way, it was really huge.
Yeah, it was.
Nathan, looking at the water vapor one, do you think Trami's eye could be shrinking?
No, I think it's just concealed. I would say the eye is just concealed by some of that cloud coverage.
Right.
Anyway, that concludes our hour of live streaming once again. Tonight we'll have more updates on Trami and 30W tonight, and we'll also have updates on Rosa either tonight or tomorrow morning first thing. We'll see what happens with that. There's still a lot going on out there, including that Medicane. in the Mediterranean Sea. Blimey. You can contact Force 13 through any of its mediums on Facebook and Twitter. Search Force 13 all in text. Skype Force 13. Fool 13 on Discord at extension 9094. Just reading off the bottom. Help the project become even better by becoming a patron. Patronage. We really appreciate all the support you've given us throughout this year to allow us to continue doing these, what we think are fantastic streams, and
yep,
we feel like we're doing the best job we can anyway. There was a question there at the end. Has this Typhoon season been more active than 2017? I think it has. Yes, I think it has. Certainly will be by the end. We're well above average. 3 from the top, I think. At least for this time of year. In any case, that's all from myself, David, and Isaac tonight. We'll probably have some more things to talk about tomorrow. Another raft of information for you. And where do we go from here? Good night, and stay safe.